Luke Bryan is a singer with an appealing personality who is well known for his wonderful sense of humor. When he is on stage, he consistently exhibits a sense of professionalism and humor. However, he has experienced a great deal of hardship in his personal life in addition to that. The judge on American Idol discussed a tragedy that is so severe that it cannot be described in words and continues to affect him to this day. A long time ago, his brother was killed in an automobile accident. One of the things that Luke Bryan is famous for is swaying his boobie while he performs on stage. During his popular song, Country Girl, Shake It For Me, audience members frequently demonstrate their own dance techniques. However, a significant setback came very close to putting an end to his career in country music. In 1996, Chris, his older brother, lost his life as a result of an automobile accident. In order to pursue a career in music, Luke Bryan was planning on relocating to Nashville, Tennessee at that point in time. However, at this point in time, he was not yet able to leave his family. Instead, he decided to remain in the state of Georgia and enroll in a university, which is where he eventually met the woman he would eventually marry, Caroline. After many years had passed, they were able to get back in touch with one another since he was giving a performance at a pub. Their marriage took place in the year 2006. Unfortunately, in the year 2007, Luke Bryan experienced another significant loss within his family. The sudden and untimely death of his sister, Kelly, came as a shock. Until this point in time, he has not mentioned her passing on very many occasions. Luke Bryan speaks out on yet another tragedy beyond words. It is currently the case that both of Luke Bryan's siblings have passed away as a result of terrible circumstances. He is prepared to discuss the subject of his sister's passing for the first time, 18 years after the fact. He expressed his views on the unfortunate circumstances in a manner that was unlike anything he has done previously on the podcast titled All There Is with Anderson Cooper on the CNN network. In the year 2007, the country music performer gave his first performance at the Grand Ole Opry. He had no idea that this would be the final occasion on which he would lay eyes on his sister Kelly. During his interview with the CNN anchor, he disclosed that his sister had purchased hundreds of tickets out of her own pocket in order to distribute them to members of her family and her friends for the purpose of celebrating this momentous occasion. He shared, "I never could have imagined that the last photo we took would have been captured in the lobby of the Grand Ole Opry." The untimely death of Luke Bryan's sister remains a mystery to this day. He described the devastating loss as follows: "It was just tragic beyond words." American Idol judge addresses the misinformation surrounding the death of her sister. Regrettably, the absence of any knowledge regarding the death of his sister created a vacuum that many individuals were extremely eager to fill with their assumptions. Luke Bryan dismissed the misinformation that was being spread regarding the death of his sister and the allegations that the family attempted to cover it up. He divulged the limited information that they are aware of regarding the demise of his sister. She passed away in an unexpected manner during the process of doing laundry. Luke Bryan gave the following explanation: "It is referred to as sudden death syndrome, and that is essentially the description that was given for my sister's death." The judge on American Idol revealed his own ideas as to what took place. Therefore, regardless of whether or not she fainted, she might have ended up going into the floor and sort of knocked herself out. I just think that if somebody could have been there, perhaps, then her chances of surviving would have been much better. They would have been a lot better. There are 3 children who are the offspring of Kelly Bryan. In the year 2014, Ben Cheshire, her spouse, passed away. Luke Bryan and Caroline, his wife, became the guardians of his sister's children, which included her teenage son, as well as her adult daughters. One of the children that the couple has is a son who is of a tender age. Luke Bryan was more than willing to open up his home, even though it was going to be a crowded house. In a 2021 interview with People magazine, he stated, "We get to live with Kelly through her children." Country superstar and longtime American Idol judge Bryan has always carried himself with humor, humility, and a lighthearted charm that has made him one of the most loved figures in modern country music. But behind the scenes, away from the bright lights, roaring crowds, and the uplifting performances of Idol, Luke has lived a life marked by profound loss. Fans have long known pieces of his story, but in a recent emotional revelation, Bryan opened up about what he called a tragedy beyond words, offering a rare, unfiltered glimpse into the wounds that shaped his heart and his career. The confession came during a deeply personal conversation that was meant to be about his life on American Idol, the show that transformed him from chart-topping country icon to mainstream television personality. But the conversation quickly shifted to something far more vulnerable. Luke spoke with a raw honesty that stunned even those who have followed him for years. He described the pain, the guilt, the unanswered questions, and the quiet strength he was forced to summon when life dealt him not one, but several heartbreaking blows. Bryan's story begins in a small town in Georgia, where he grew up in a tight-knit family wrapped in the simplicity of country life. Music was part of his fabric, but so was family. The Bryans were known for their warmth, their resilience, and their ability to face hardship together. Yet even the strongest families can be blindsided by fate. Luke's first tragedy struck at the age of 19, just as he was preparing to chase his dreams in Nashville. His older brother, Chris, died in a sudden accident. The loss shattered the Bryan family and left Luke paralyzed by grief. He postponed his move to Nashville, choosing instead to stay home and support his parents, who were drowning in heartbreak. It was during those years that Luke learned what it meant to push forward through pain, to rise each morning even when the world felt too heavy. But tragedy was not finished with the Bryans. Years later, just as Luke was finally gaining traction in Nashville and beginning to release music that would soon dominate country radio, his sister Kelly passed away unexpectedly. Her death came without warning, without explanation, and without answers. Doctors never determined a cause, leaving the family with a wound that would never fully close. Luke has described that chapter of life as one defined by questions that had no comfort and a sorrow that felt both surreal and cruel. When he spoke recently, Luke revisited those moments with a clarity that revealed how deeply they still live within him. He spoke of Kelly's vibrant personality, her laughter, her love for her children, and the unimaginable weight of her absence. He described the shock of losing both siblings before the age of 40 and how it changed everything, how it made every success sharper, every celebration softer, every milestone bittersweet. But life's cruelty did not stop there. Years after Kelly's passing, her husband Ben died unexpectedly as well, leaving their 3 children without parents. Luke and his wife Caroline made a life-altering decision in that moment. They opened their home, their hearts, and their lives to raise the children themselves. They did it quietly, without seeking praise, without making headlines. It was an act driven by love, loyalty, and a determination to protect the legacy of Luke's sister. In the recent interview, Luke explained that taking in the children was not something he or Caroline had to debate. Family had already been tested by too much pain, and they refused to let tragedy win. Still, he admitted that stepping into the role of a parent for teenagers already marked by grief was one of the most difficult chapters of his life. He described nights filled with questions he could not answer, moments when the kids needed their mother and father, and the burden of helping them navigate a world that had already taken so much from them. For Luke, the phrase tragedy beyond words does not refer to one single moment in time. It describes a lifetime shaped by loss, heartbreak, and unimaginable pain. It is a story of a man who learned not only how to survive devastation, but how to rise from it with grace. And as he spoke, one thing became unmistakably clear. Luke Bryan's success has never erased the shadows behind him. If anything, those shadows have sharpened his purpose. He revealed that his journey through grief profoundly impacts his role on American Idol. When he sees a contestant trembling with fear, he knows what it means to carry pressure. When he sees a young singer holding on to music as a lifeline, he understands it intimately. Music saved him too, and when he delivers gentle guidance or tough honesty, it comes from a place shaped by life, not television. Luke described how Idol became more than a job for him. It became a place where he could pour hope into others. A place where he could root for the underdog because he knows pain can fuel greatness. A place where he could help shape futures because he understands how fragile life is, how quickly things can change, and how important it is to lift others while you can. In his revelation, Luke also acknowledged the immense support he receives from Caroline and their children. He credited his wife for being a pillar of strength through every storm, the quiet hero behind their family's ability to keep moving forward. He described her as the kind of woman who loves fiercely, forgives quickly, and stands tall even when the world feels impossible. Their bond, he said, is forged not only in love, but in survival. What struck fans most about Luke's emotional confession was not just the depth of his pain, but the way he has transformed it into love, generosity, and compassion. His tragedies became the backbone of his resilience, the compass guiding his decisions, and the silent influence behind the kindness he shows to others. Luke Bryan may be a global superstar, but his story is one deeply human, a story of loss and healing, a story of carrying grief while standing in the spotlight, a story of trying to honor those who are no longer here, and a story of choosing to keep living, loving, and giving even when the world has taken too much. His revelation was not meant to shock, but to remind fans that behind every public figure is a private life filled with chapters no one sees. Luke Bryan's tragedies are beyond words, but his strength speaks louder than anything he could ever say.